like I played with Transformers a lot as a kid, and I think that actually sort of informed a lot of my design sensibilities, because almost everything I design has a secondary purpose, or it changes really easily, or nothing is just what it is. Everything always has an additional layer to it, and an additional element that I think is kind of the soul of what I'm about.
After designing over 35 hotels within the Graduate Hotels brand, Andrew Alford, designer and artist, meets us in the lounge to talk about how he came into the field, life after a major career shift, and where his design path has taken him now. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and hit the notification icon to never miss an episode of In the Design Lounge. So now you essentially design over 40 hotels. Like how has it been designing that many hotels? When you're talking about the design, do you get to live out some of your creativity through the hotels you work with?
I do. And in fact, at one point I realized that pretty much every project I've designed has been almost like a self-therapy of working out something. So, I did one in Tempe, Arizona, and that one was all about, when I was young, my family didn't have money to go on trips. So I think I was 19 before I went west of Sandusky, Ohio.
Okay.
And so the Tempe hotel was about, I would go through my grandparents' old photo albums of my dad and all that, and they had these like sepia tone photos of them throwing the kids in the station wagon and driving out west to the national parks. And when I was a kid, I just pined for that. I pined for that adventure, and I couldn't have it. And so, so that Tempe project ended up being, in a way, like me working out, because there it is in the desert, and it looks like, the landscape looks like these photos that my grandmother, that were in my family's photo.
You see the scenic like photos people post on Instagram, even, like of the skies, and not just like a pink like sepia tone. Totally.
Yeah. So pretty much every one of my projects has been about sort of exploring those personal ideas. There's got to be depth, and there's got to be, hopefully a hotel is going to be someplace that people come back to again and again, and they're going to experience a new part of the personality and discover a new part of the story. And I try to do things in a way where it's not so obvious, where you actually have to think about it, and you actually have to maybe go to the front desk agent and say, why is this like that? And it creates an interaction. So the idea that, an interior is one thing doesn't sit well with me. Like people are going to have different moods and different personalities. And that space should be able to switch on a dime, just like anything else.
I can liken what you're saying for me to like watching a movie, right? When you watch it the first time, you're like, okay, I see this.
Yeah.
When you watch it the second and third and fourth time, you pick up on cues and things, and actually it makes even more sense. You can take it in even more.
Correct.
That's how it's like staying in one of your hotels.
Yeah, like going back and like watching The Sixth Sense a second time, like knowing, what the surprise ending is. And again, bringing it back to that idea of transformation. I mean, I love a space that can transform in the drop of a hat. So, we as people, none of us are one thing.
So you obviously talking about transformation and change. You have a lot of changes going on personally. So we're sitting.
We're sitting in one of the biggest changes.
We're sitting in one of the biggest changes literally right now. So what's going on with you?
I was the chief creative officer of Graduate Hotels. So I designed every graduate hotel that is out there. And those are high design hotels that are all in college markets and focus on telling those community stories in a really creative way that matches their personalities, which nobody's done before. So I did that, and it was really intense. So I want to say 35 hotels in 6 years. And each one of those had between 2 and 4 food and beverage outlets. So it's just an exponential.
And everyone had a different story. It wasn't like an and one. It was like 35
unique experiences. 35 unique experiences.
That's a lot of creativity.
And it is. My time there ended. So going back to the question on change, my time there ended actually on my 45th birthday, unexpectedly, September 30th of 2019. This is pre-COVID. We didn't know what was coming. So I actually had a head start on quarantine.
Okay.
Because
so you hit the ground running.
Because I had an unexpected job change. For very punk rock reasons that I'm very proud of, and I would do it all again. So anyhow, so that's a story I probably shouldn't go into. But anyhow, so So yeah, it was a lot of change from that point. So then COVID hit. So there was a lot of change going on, but it was also sitting still, which I'd never had the chance to do. So designing that many hotels, being on the road that much, and I've been in my design career for 25 years now.
Okay.
And it's just constantly been.
I mean, what you said, 35 hotels in what, 6 years?
6 years, and I'd had my own practice before that for 7 years, so tons of work in that as well. So yeah, it's a large body of work in a short period of time, and so not having that, and all of a sudden there was no hotel industry. So even if I wanted to go find work, it wasn't really out there.
Yeah.
It was the first time, I would almost say in my life, that I got to sit still and heal. So we ended up making the decision to move to Portland. We got an Airbnb to live in for 9 months. And then we literally just moved into this house 10 days ago. Okay. And when I was approached about this interview, I made the decision of, I'm going to have it designed and as a pop-up and as like a weird installation. And it'll be this fun thing. And the last 10 days have just been a blast. Yeah. And it really put me back in touch with like 17-year-old me, and going to Goodwill and like getting scrappy. And it put me in touch with really good things that I can now process through different filters. So this new house that we're in, one of the things I'm actually doing is like one of the core ideas. And there's a lot of ideas going into what I'm working on right now. And they're even hard for me to keep straight. So I'm interested to see if I can actually communicate them forwardly. But like in the living room, I keep a wall of sunglasses now. Yeah. So that
I tried on a pair.
Yeah, and that's what they're there for. So they're there not just so like if I'm running out the door, I can figure out what best suits my mood, but also like I really want this house to be almost like a community center.
Okay.
And to sort of redefine what a home is. So being in isolation for so long, and I've got a 9-year-old daughter. I want her exposed to colorful people and interesting things. And so I'm programming the entire house, sort of setting up moments that allow people to, if they come in wearing something neutral, but they want to feel different, they can grab a pair of sunglasses. I also have this place completely tricked out with like club lighting. So in 2 seconds, I can turn this into...
Change the experience.
Yeah. And part of that idea was like, we all now know that our world can close down in a day.
Yeah, literally,
in an hour.
Like that.
And so, I'm being very intentional with this house of if, God forbid, something, goes wrong again and things have to close down, I've got this house ready for a huge range of experiences. And so I think in design right now, it really plays into, like I played with Transformers a lot as a kid. And I think that actually sort of informed a lot of my design sensibilities, because almost everything I design has a secondary purpose, or it changes really easily, or nothing is just what it is. Mm-hmm. Everything always has an additional layer to it, and an additional element that I think is kind of the soul of what I'm about is that transformational aspect of design.
That's what I was going to ask. How did you get into design? But you said Transformers was a big thing as a
kid. So actually, yeah. So my first career was actually in theme parks.
Okay.
I grew up in Akron, Ohio. My degree is in English literature. I've got that Midwestern sort of nice thing in me where like it's just not okay to be an asshole, and we should use our time here to make the world happier and a better place. And so that's why I actually loved the theme park industry. And when I was there, the very first day I worked on the brand new roller coaster. I was 19 years old, shy. I mean, like could barely speak to people. I was so shy. And I tend to be an open book about a lot of things, from mental health to my background. But I grew up, my mother was a drug addict. And so I grew up in a lot of chaos. And I grew up, because of that and because of the side effects of her illness. So when I got to the theme park situation, what I realized is for the 2 minutes and 37 seconds, somebody was riding that roller coaster. They weren't thinking about bills. They weren't thinking about cancer. They weren't thinking about a divorce. They weren't thinking about anything. They also weren't doing drugs. They weren't, doing something themselves that was going to be damaging. It's pure healthy escapism. And so that roller coaster, we would do about 25,000 rides a day. And so you add that up, 2 minutes and 37 seconds times 25,000. That's a lot of time that you have provided an amazing service to people. So, and that was like a drug to me, providing that escapism and knowing the hurt that I had felt. And so that has ended up translating. So growing up in Ohio, I was always encouraged to be creative, but I feel like creativity was always more of a hobby. Like, you do creative things as a hobby, but you get a real job, quote unquote real job. So my early adult life, like teenager, early adult life, I was on this search for like a real job. Well, I got hired by Universal Studios to help open the Islands of Adventure theme park, which was creative directed by Steven Spielberg. And so I got down there. It was still very much a construction site, and there was just like acres and acres of trailers. And I was on the operations side of things, but I would have to interact with the creative to work out like how things were gonna, sort of jive together. And so I saw all these people with these creative careers, like real jobs.
You're like, this is something you can do.
And I was like, this is what I'm meant to do.
They've been lying to you this whole
time. Yeah. Like, this is what I'm meant to do. I wasn't really big on living in Orlando. So I moved back up to Ohio for a few months, regrouped, and then an opportunity came up to move to New York.
Okay.
And I was terrified, absolutely terrified. So I moved to New York. I'd barely ever been there before. And I knew that was my time to make a change. So I got a job answering phones at a design firm. Gotcha. So I found a creative headhunter and literally started at the bottom, making like $12 an hour in Manhattan answering phones.
Yeah.
And I made sure that they knew that I wanted to learn. So I was at that job for about 6 months. And then another firm had a junior design. So it's just sort of been like, now there have been a lot of colorful things along the way. But that was the origin of how I got into design. Oh, it's a game.
Yeah, it's a game. It is a game. We're going to go to colors by name.
Is there a prize?
There should be a prize. There should be a prize. But like I said, obviously we know you love color. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read a paint name from popular paint companies.
Okay.
Using basic color names, you try to guess what the paint color is.
What the paint color is, okay.
And I'm expecting you
No, I'm into this.
I'm expecting you to be like 100%.
And certain paint companies have better names.
Yeah.
There's one of them that names way better than...
Yeah. Well, I'll say, don't overthink it.
Okay.
Blowing bubbles.
Blowing bubbles would be a very, very pale light blue.
Blue.
Yeah.
Pure joy. What do you think that is? Oh, that's going to be interesting. What do you think that is?
I would say for a paint company to call that, it's going to be pink.
It's actually yellow.
So now what's interesting about that is yellow has been the color in my career that I've wanted to use the most, and I get the most pushback on.
Dog's ear.
Dog's ear would be pink.
There you go. Cabin fever.
The color nobody should use after last year. Cabin fever to me would be a really sad neutral.
They have it down as brown. Dirty martini.
Like an olive green.
Green for sure. Last but certainly not least, winter in Paris.
Oh, that was actually my last trip prior to quarantine. Winter in Paris. I mean, it'd be gray.
Dun, 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 dun. Of course.
With then like explosions of color coming off of it.
There you go. There you go. That's great.
Yeah. So I've spent 20 plus years focused on clients and giving them what they wanted. And at this point, I've come to be associated with a lot of like gallery walls of thrift store art and all this stuff. It's not really me. Okay. I've said I've faked a lot of orgasms over the years. Because as a commercial designer, my job was to work with my client to bring the best version of their vision to life.
Exactly.
And to serve them. So right now I don't have any clients. So if I want to do weird Comme des Garçons upholstered chairs where it's just, asymmetric and bizarre and difficult to live with, I can do that. So everything for me right now is about rejecting everything I've done up to this point and starting back over as the kid who was 17 years old, reupholstering his own furniture in his bedroom and, making weird art. Except at this point, at 46 years old, doing it, now that I've got my mental health under control and I'm in a good place, it's like going back and redoing all that stuff without the things that were tying my hands behind my back.
Without the baggage.
Yeah.
Do you think you would do it different genres of creativity? I mean, from art to fashion?
Yeah. I have a clothing brand designed that's essentially grown men's clothes that are in colors and patterns inspired by children and women's clothes.
Okay.
I have 4 complete hotel brands designed that if anybody wants to throw $150 million towards launching a hotel brand, I'm ready to go on that as well. I've been making a lot of art. So right now, this is actually one of them. I've been painting my brain chemicals the way that I want them to be. So sort of manifesting my own, realizing, things like adrenaline and oxytocin and all these things that go on in our heads. I'm sort of making up my own brain chemicals and painting them. Even like the furniture that's sitting behind us, I'm not very good at just sitting still and watching TV. So I can sit there and sew on the furniture. So right now it's like all baggy and sloppy. I just sit there and watch TV and sew at it. And so it'll continue to get more tailored and tightened up, and I'll end up with these art pieces of furniture.
So then I guess that's the follow-up. You kind of answered it a little bit, but then, so what is next? Are
I don't
you
know.
finding out?
I don't know. I'm finding out. And for once, I'm okay with saying I don't know. So it's been interesting moving to Portland because, obviously I'm a very bright color palette kind of guy.
Yeah.
Portland tends to be a little more muted.
Without question.
Everywhere I go here, my husband laughs hysterically at it. I get stopped at the grocery store. I get stopped on the sidewalk. I get stopped all the time. And I think it was like the first couple days I was here, somebody stopped me on the sidewalk and she said, "Can you step back? I just need to take you in."
Literally. People don't realize how powerful that is, especially in a place that's not used to that.
Yeah. And so for me, I now realize, like, chemically for me, I know what that does. That makes, it creates those happy things down here that my brain doesn't naturally create on its own very well. So it gives me that. But I also love the fact that it goes back to like my theme park thing. I love the fact that me dressed in a wacky outfit, that person that stopped me, I brighten their day too.
Exactly.
And I would say most aspects of my life are like that. And I think it's one of the good things that I think it makes me really good at my job in terms of public facing design, is there has to be an emotional intuition to do that well. There are a lot of hotel designers that we've all been to kind of soulless hotels, or, like, oh, that's pretty, but like, all right. For me, emotional intuition is one of the most important parts, and understanding that in yourself is crucial. So for me, I like being that person that comes in and brightens a room.
So let me ask you this, because I used to do it. Do you manufacture your mood based upon what you wear sometimes? I know there's been times for me where it's like,
that question.
I'm like, okay, I'm feeling down. I'm going to manufacture happiness, if you will, right? I'm going to put on something super bright, and then I know I have to have that energy.
I'm going to start that actually on the opposite end of the spectrum.
Okay.
If I wake up in the morning and my brain says wear all black today, I'm not getting out of bed. I'm not going anywhere. There have been 2 specific times that my brain said wear black today. One was September 11th, 2001, when I lived in New York.
Okay.
So I was there.
Yeah.
Number 2 was the day my mom died. And pure coincidence.
Yeah.
But I usually don't wear all black.
Exactly.
It's very, very rare. Yeah. And so, like, if my brain, I'm like, nope, not getting out of bed. Just leave it be.
This is not the day.
But what I do decide, I have a very deep closet with a lot of range in it. And I always say I wake up every morning and decide who I'm going to be that day.
Yeah.
And it's the same, like, there's one version of me, but there's different tones
absolutely on
that version. Like,